We're going to get right in it today because we got a lot to chat about.
A French researcher was denied visa due to his opinions on Donald Trump. There has been a lot of misinformation over the years.
Oh boy. You know what? We're going to go back and forth with this. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, 2020, I said that already, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner. So if I repeated myself, that's my head, not my heart. Sorry about that. Rewind. All right. And also I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 500,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you are, if you're watching this live, it's live on March 22nd. 2026, the year is going. It's going. I like, but we finally are beginning to we're finally got rid of most of the snow. It's raining cats and dogs this morning in Toronto, but it's washing away the snow. And I was chatting with some people today and I said, what would you rather have, the rain or the snow? And one gentleman said, I don't want to shovel any more snow this winter. I've had my fill. Okay. That's what we want. That's what we get. Okay. And on Sunday afternoons, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we do Black Canada Talking. You know, I'm going to say Black Canadians, but specifically one Black Canadian, Cesar Ndema-Moussa, gives his POVs, thoughts on local, international, provincial, global stories. So before he takes off again on another trip, we've got Cesar Ndema-Moussa in the house. What's up, Cesar?
Dr. Vibe, sisters and brothers and allies, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm okay. I'm good. Thank you so much, Dr. Vibe. Black Canada Talking, it matters, especially in these times, everything that goes on. Yes,
absolutely. So, what's been going on in your world since we last had you on the show?
Well, you are aware. Long story short, I'll be gone this coming week, work, business meetings, etc., all the way to Washington, D.C. For a business summit and a gala at the end of the day in which I will be awarded regarding my works towards social justice on a global scale.
Nice.
And like I said, like we talked about, 2 weeks from now, I will have the award, and I will tell more about it, and all the works, that I/Roots and Culture Canada, we have been doing to be deserving of this.
Excellent. So, excellent. Well done.
Thank you.
What are you seeing out on the field there in regards to the world of social justice? What sort of pulse are you getting?
It's, how can I put it? I'm having a memory blank, but last week, the leading anti-racism activist in Tunisia was sent to jail under the claims of finances. For those who are not aware, Tunisia literally shifted radically. When I say radically, Tunisia went in 2026, I'm tempted to say 10 years ago or about, Tunisia went from the North African nation to recognize slavery, recognize anti-Black racism, really going progressive on those topics, really addressing deep embedded racial issues. To give a very good example to people, it is not uncommon that in Tunisia, when people die, Blacks cannot be buried in the same cemeteries as whites.
Are you kidding?
And yet you will hear our Black Muslim brothers and sisters tell you that there's no racism in Islam.
Wow.
So Tunisia was absolutely moving forward. There was the so-called Arab Spring Revolution, which began in Tunisia 2011. Unfortunately, the shift became radical, aka to the right, and Muslim slash Islamist, to the point where the current president, Kais, I'm sorry, so many names in my head, but the president of Tunisia, Kais something, had declared that there was an intent from what he called the Africans. So understand it's kind of the mentality of Northern Africans, aka Maghrebis, who not think of themselves as Africans, but as Arabs. Many of them, not all, many of them, that the Africans, aka Sub-Saharans, aka dark-skinned Africans, were trying to migrate to Tunisia to do a great replacement, aka the white supremacist theory, a replacement of the Tunisian population, and as such, a hard crackdown regarding anti-racism, black advocates, women advocates, you name it. So this is an example of what's happening. And that's just one example. Even on this show, I am guilty of this. We don't talk enough about what's happening to one of our great leaders of the Black cause. Most people have never heard his name, and yet Beni Wenda of Papua New Guinea has been leading a fight for decades with his people against Indonesia. So you would look at it as, yellow colonization on black lands. While the yellow colonization is greatly pushed by white corporations. My father, international lawyer, did stay for some time in Indonesia, and it's appalling the things that go on over there, greatly unreported, greatly unknown. And I can go on with so many such examples. One little one was what happened, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, in Argentina. For those who are not aware, and first of all, I want to state this: not all Argentines, as not all whites, are racist. I have great friends from Argentina that I vouch for them. However, we can reality in terms of anti-black racism in Argentina, a country that used to count up to aka Afro-Argentines due to slavery. And today, 2026, watch what's going to happen in June. Argentina, the only country of South America, of the Americas, of the Western world, including Eastern European countries, Argentina is time and again the only country that does not have a single black player on its World Cup team. That's the extent to which there's been an anti-black genocide. And what has happened last week was on the TV show, I think it's called Big Brother. I don't watch those things. Big Brother, there was one Argentinian contestant who was caught live. She wasn't aware, but she was caught live. Is it really shocking? For us who are black, it's not. Calling a black contestant monkey, something about coming off the boat, being a slave, etc. And she was kicked off the show. And it has sparked a national conversation because the denial outside of Argentina is that there is no racism, and everybody wants to turn Argentina into like Brazil and blah blah blah. And yet Argentina is also the country that received so many of the notably Nazi leaders who were escaping Germany after World War II. And Argentina is one of the countries, now let's be careful, it's not just Argentina, the US and Canada and Brazil had this policy. Argentina is one of the countries that had a policy of whitening the population, blanqueamiento, whitening the population as an official policy to bring in poor whites, notably from Eastern Europe, a lot of Irish, Italians, Lionel Messi, Italian ancestry, etc., etc. And part of that was also included also what? The legal raping of black women. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of, Tunisia, West Papua New Guinea, Argentina. Yeah, so.
All right. Well, we've got a good start off already. What we're going to do is we're going to go to break. And when we come back from our break, we'll do a little housekeeping. Then we'll get right into probably just 2 stories today, but always enough going on. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
Watch Black Canada Talking live on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, where Dr. Vibe and Cesar Ndema-Moussa give their takes and POVs on news stories from a Black Canadian perspective.
Check out Primetime Saturdays with Aisha and Lala.
We're live every Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern
With Aisha K. Staggers
and Laura Lala Key,
where we try to make sense of the nonsense
going on in American politics and culture.
You don't want to miss it.
We'll see you on Saturday.
All right, we are back. Cesar will be back in just a moment. But while we're doing that, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. We appreciate that. And if you have subscribed, thank you. And if you have subscribed, share it out with other people. And also, if you subscribe, at least watch either live or on the replay, make comments, etc. Engagement. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business product or service on our show, please email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Can't forget our good friend, Dr. Tachi, who was with us yesterday. Well, she was with us the last few days, but she was with Laura Lala Key, subbing in for Aisha K. Staggers yesterday on Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala, and she runs a great platform, Indie Soup TV. It's an independent content creators platform, about 30 independent content creators, and just in 2 years, over 28,000 subscribers on YouTube. That means subscriber-wise, Indie Soup Media is one of the top, in the top 4% of all YouTube channels. So check it out. And most importantly, if you want to catch Cesar, you can email him at president at Roots and Culture Canada, and also Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. And I just also want to make people aware, coming up on July 25th in Toronto, the ADNC Narrative Power Summit at the Aqua Supper Club. I'll be hosting the event and have a lot of guests from Canada and the US there. The link is there. I'll also share it on all the platforms. And one of the guests, probably the featured guest, is a gentleman named Philip Scott, who runs the African Diaspora News channel on YouTube. He has about 6 channels on there, and he averages around 19 million viewers every month. So if you want, and also if you're a subscriber or go to my YouTube channel, I had a great conversation with Mr. Philip Scott earlier this past week or mid last week. So all those things there. And we got some comments in the house. Michelle says, Felicia says, congratulations on your upcoming well-deserved award.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you very much.
And JJ Mars, good to have him here, says, many Latin countries have an ugly history of being openly racist against Black people.
Very true, but truly worldwide.
All right. Well, let's get into our first story. Cesar brought this, and he brings a lot of things to my attention that I don't know about, and probably a lot of you don't know about. But our first story, race representation and power. Rachida Dati in France and Idlout in Canada. Cesar, educate us on this, please.
So basically, March, right, month of women, and notably when we talk about, if you want to talk about equal rights for women and women's progress, we have to talk about politics and leadership. And here we have 2 interesting situations. Lori Idlout, I hope I said her name right, an Inuit MP, Member of Parliament, federal, in Northwest Territories, if I am correct, will switch parties from the Conservative to the Liberals, and thus advancing the cause, the desire of Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney towards a majority government. So, and I made a little mistake here. I said she was conservative. No, she was actually NDP, which moves the NDP party from 7 members to 6 members, making the position even more fragile since the departure of former leader Jagmeet Singh. She got blamed, the NDP blamed her and all that, and even the leader of the opposition, conservative MP, Pierre Poilievre, took aim at this notion of switching parties. But I notably like the take that the former communication director of Stephen Harper, Mr. Dimitri Soudas, did mention. He talked about pretty much the hypocrisy of the criticism of this MP, Laurie Idlout. This woman from Northwest Territories will clearly explain the reason she switched parties to go to the Liberal, the party in power, is because, and we know this, Prime Minister Mark Carney has talked about investing heavily, notably in the Canadian North, amidst the conflict, soft conflict, one wants to call it, with the United States, aka growing Canada's independence, just as protecting the North. Even Stephen Harper had talked about today's, challenges in dealing with President Trump since last year is difficult today, but in 30 or 40 years, Canada might be very thankful because effectively we are being forced to become less dependent on the United States and thus truly an adult state. Dimitri Soudas rightfully called that the hypocrisy of Pierre Poilievre because if it was the other way around, that the Conservatives were in power and they needed a few seats, a few more MPs to be majority, would he refuse such an offer? Of course not. And for the NDP, I'm sorry, their party, unfortunately, since the passing of Jack Layton, they have lost the greatest hope of coming to power. It is not uncommon for NDP voters and MP to basically move towards the Liberals. The position aligned closer than to move to the Conservative. Now, why did Rachida Dati in France also matter? Because, yes, she's a woman. She's a woman of Algerian descent. And you see, she lost the elections. I'm not going to create a false suspense. It was revealed a few hours ago. She lost the elections to become the first non-white mayor of Paris. And interestingly, one of the things that came is the fact of the challenges to her position, not so much as a woman, because Paris did have a woman prior, Mrs. Anne Hidalgo, who is the previous mayor. But we cannot deny the aspect of her identities and the fact that she is of the right. The right in France, which is greatly close to the far right. So many people are having a hard time reconciling the possibility of voting for a first non-white woman who could become the mayor of Paris, making history, but with support from the far right. Let's be honest, towards her, she did refuse the endorsement of the far right candidate, which, Dr. Vibe, get ready for a shocker, the far right candidate is also a woman, also from Africa, this time I believe from Morocco, Sarah Knafo. This is the landscape in France in which you have far-right politicians. So the far right, the really far-right politicians in France, surprisingly, are from Northern Africa. They are from Northern Africa. They are white, visibly white to us, who are black, but also to white people who would not know better, until you read the name, or, you're like, Rachida, that doesn't sound very European, right? But if you don't know the name, you're seeing a white woman, but they're from North Africa. So the point I wanted to bring this conversation is notably in the context of the month of March, Women's Empowerment Month, and I'm being mindful that I am a man. So I'm speaking here with an analysis that is also centered on intersectionality, but also on humility of recognizing gender differences, but also reminding the nature of power, in which in Canada, I feel the MP Idlout is being attacked wrongly for doing the same thing many other men have done. And she was very honest. She switched parties for the well-being of her community. How can she be blamed? Pierre Poilievre just had to win, because check what happened. When Mr. Poilievre in Canada lost his own riding, he did not hesitate to go campaign in an easy riding in Alberta in order to have a seat and go back to the parliament. That is such a hypocrisy. And here in France, having Rachida Dati, who combines a lot of dirt, many people will call it, from her past in government. She's been a political figure for over 20 years. She was there with the part of the government, the administration of the French president Nicolas Sarkozy, who notably had put her and Hamayad, a Senegalese woman, in relatively high position in his administration. So yeah, she carries a lot of dirt, but at the same time, we have to be honest. Part of the attacks towards her, and I watched the debate that she had with the eventual winner, Emmanuel Grégoire, white man, politician, also in Paris, so the new mayor of Paris. And effectively, even in that debate, Mr. Grégoire did say comments that Mrs. Dati and the other candidate woman, also from North Africa, did call racist. So we cannot deny that, indeed, racism and gender are also playing as part of politics and power and leadership.
Good take as always in the house. Dr. Tachi says, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great to have you always, Dr. Tachi. You're always, if you want to call in, the digits. Cesar, before we move on to our next, maybe, what do you feel it's going to take for there be more acceptance of women in major political roles? What is it going to take?
That is an excellent question, Dr. Vibe. And again, let me repeat this. We are two men talking about the place of women in politics. Ladies, we are speaking here with humility, but also intersectionality in mind. This is actually a question that I address in my conferences and EDI, DEI trainings. And the way I address it is to give an example. Generally in political campaigns, especially when there's a debate, what is the focus when it's a male candidate? His program. What is too often the focus when it's a female candidate? Her past, her private life. Is she married? How many children she has? And on the debate floor, is she wearing pants or a skirt? And if she's wearing a skirt, is it above the knee level or below the knee level? This is not me making it up. This is true whether we look at Hillary Clinton running for president, or here in Canada, Pauline Marois, former prime minister in Quebec. It is patriarchy. It is also how we socialize, but ultimately, it is a matter in which most people, and when I say most people, let's be careful. I am not simply saying most men. I'm also including most women have a hard time seeing and taking as seriously a woman in power. There are exceptions, of course. I'm thinking here of Michelle Bachelet, some of the female presidents in Latin America. Can you imagine? From Mexico with President Sheinbaum to Argentina, and I think Chile, I might be wrong, but Argentina, Latin America has had more female presidents. Canada and the US never had one. I mean, Canada had an interim female prime minister for 3 months. But truly, when you look at the US, 2016, 2020, 2024, white women voted more as a collective, over 50% for Trump, despite blatant sexism, misogyny, racism, rape accusations, convicted felony, insurrectionism, the 2022 Dobbs decision against women reproductive rights. Despite that, white women, and I'm really specific, white women as a collective bloc. So this is not addressing individual white women, because some of them are indeed our allies and the allies of all the right causes. But white women as a collective bloc put back Donald Trump in power despite everything revealed about him. The way I look at it is this, in the same conversation as we talk about sports as men. Why do women in the WNBA want to be paid the same as the NBA? Well, if most women were watching WNBA, went to the games of WNBA, the ticket sales would soar, the TV advertising, everything. If most women supported women in politics, I'm saying most, not because men should not. Of course men should. Of course men should. But it's just like when we have the conversation on race. If as Black people, we don't support Black politicians of quality, we don't support Black businesses of quality, we don't support Black spirituality, how can we be surprised that we are not first? How can we be surprised that we are not growing? How can we be surprised that we are still oppressed? So this is where I would start, because we can do the great systemic analysis, address patriarchy and all that stuff, but ultimately that becomes a question. When you have that too many women support men who are openly sexist, how can we be surprised themselves? And then what it creates as a very perverse effect is that too often we end up with women in politics who try to behave like men. And so it reinforces the message that politics is a man's playing field. A very good example to the contrary of what I'm saying is how, oh my gosh, Jacinda Ardern, if I recall correctly, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, she was very womanly about her job, including maternity while being Prime Minister. So pushing back, but why did she have to be attacked on her being a woman, a feminine woman, etc., etc.? The mindset of our people, Blacks, but the mindset of society as a whole is still that politics is a male playing field. And yet, any honest historian can tell you 100%, Africa is the country that has had the most female leaders. And to this very day, as Thursday, I was giving a conference on gender inequality. The country that counts the most women in government is in Africa. Rwanda, 63% of parliamentarians are women.
Stop it there because time runs fast when Cesar is on the line. So, and I said I shouldn't have gone there, but you know what? International Women's Month, and we got to give the ladies not only Women's Month, that every day they're just due. And in some ways, it may be a more important story than the one we're coming up on, but that's a matter of opinion. All right. So before we get to our next conversation piece, we're going to introduce it with a little bit of a video. So we've got about a 3-minute video we're going to show you to introduce our next conversation piece. So hang tight. Here we go.
Trump's war abroad, America's crisis at home, two fronts, one presidency and a country asking what comes first. On the global stage, Donald Trump is leaning hard into confrontation, military posturing, escalating rhetoric, strategic pressure campaigns that signal strength to allies, and warning shots to rivals. Whether it's tensions in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, or economic warfare with global powers, the message is clear: America is not stepping back. But while the spotlight shines overseas, the situation at home is telling a very different story. Inflation continues to squeeze everyday Americans. Housing remains out of reach for millions. Healthcare costs still climbing. And across major cities, concerns about public safety, mental health, and economic instability are growing louder, not quieter. So here's the tension. Can a nation project power abroad while struggling to maintain stability at home? Historically, strong foreign policy has often been used to unify a divided country. A common external focus can rally patriotism, shift narratives, and redefine leadership. But this moment feels different, because Americans aren't just watching global conflicts, they're living through personal ones. Kitchen table economics, community safety, political division. These aren't abstract issues, they're daily realities. And critics are asking, is this strategy or distraction? Supporters of Trump argue that strength abroad creates security at home, that projecting dominance on the world stage protects American interests, deters threats, and restores global respect. But others see a disconnect. They question whether resources, attention, and leadership focus are being pulled away from urgent domestic needs. They ask, who is fighting for the American people right now? Because while wars abroad can shape headlines, it's the crisis at home that shapes lives. And this is where the real conversation begins. Is America trying to lead the world while losing its footing internally? Or is this a necessary balancing act in a complex, high-stakes global era? For Black communities and other historically marginalized groups, the stakes are even higher. Economic vulnerability, systemic inequities, and access gaps mean that any domestic instability hits harder and lasts longer. So the question isn't just political, it's personal. What kind of leadership does this moment demand? One that prioritizes global dominance, or one that rebuilds trust, stability, and opportunity at home? Or can it truly be both? Because at the end of the day, a nation's strength isn't just measured by the wars it fights abroad, but by how well it takes care of its people at home.
All right. So our conversation topic that Cesar's going to dive into for the next little bit is 47's war abroad, America's crisis at home. And on top of that, I would like to encourage, we want to run a poll to get your thoughts on this topic. So what I'm going to do, let me just put this up. I got to put the right thing up here. Okay. And we've got a poll for everybody here. So question. Which should be the top priority for U.S. leaders right now, including 47? Should it be 1, strength abroad and military power? 2, fixing the economy at home? Or 3, tackling crime and public safety? So wherever you are watching this, please enter in 1, 2, or 3, and we will update you on the poll as we are going in real time. So 1, 2, or 3. And the question is, which should be the top priority for the U.S. leaders right now? Strengthen abroad and military power, fixing the economy at home, or tackling crime and public safety? Cesar, your thoughts on this conversation topic?
First, 3 things. First, congratulations on the 3 minutes. Always well done. So congratulations on the production team. Second, tribute to CNN. No, I don't mean the TV channel. I mean our brothers, Capone Noriega, 1998 album, The War Report. That's where it came from. Third of all, Dr. Vibe, I've shown this book before. I must show it again. Are We Rome? Book by Colin Murphy. You want to learn about the likely outcome of American politics under Trump? Not just Trump. Let's be fair to him. But especially in this age, read about how the American Empire, the Roman Empire fell. An empire, so not just the Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, the Kamit, our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, black pharaonic ancient Egyptians, the Ottomans, the British, the French, the Mongols, the Mughals, the Qing dynasty in China, the Aztec in the Americas, the Inca. I mean, every empire crumbles first from within. The external force just becomes the extra momentum to bring to its fall. What's happening right now? What is it? The special operations name, Dr. Vibe again? Epic Fury?
Pardon me? Operation Fury.
Yes, Epic Fury.
Epic Fury, yes.
Many people are calling it Epstein Fury, aka another deflection from revealing the Epstein file. Now, what we are seeing is notably that in this conflict, a president who was elected on the economy, on the affordability, because Joe Biden, oh no, the economy is great, don't worry. He lost. Kamala Harris, she lost. Mr. I deserve the Nobel Peace Award. Mr. Obama will start war with Iran in order to either boost his number or to be reelected. Mr. These Middle East wars are a waste of money, waste of lives. Look, today, Dr. Vibe, I was at the gym, and there was what seemed to be a Latino man wearing a red hat. Make America great again. It's baffling to think to what extent are Trump voters deep into the cult to not realize the great cult leader has no shame lying and manipulating them at every count. Because more and more Americans are feeling the pinch. Many analysts have talked about how Trump, along Hegseth, and Marco Rubio, I mean, we can give a pass to J.D. Vance here, but these three men probably expected a rapid scenario as what happened in Venezuela regarding Nicolas Maduro. But the Iranian regime is not such. And now, look, March 22nd, we are entering into the fourth week of a conflict in which Donald Trump is sending more and more American soldiers, notably Marines, in the region. Don't get me wrong, people would like to argue, but it's an illegal war, etc., that Israel and America started. I would say, yeah, by international standards, but at the same time, if we are truly honest, the Iranian regime has not only been declaring death to Israel and America since its inception 47 years ago, 1979, but at the same time, hint, 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 it is actually the Western nations, and I revealed this before on your show, Dr. Vibe, it's actually Western nations, including America, will put the religious, aka the Ayatollah, in power as they stop supporting the Shah, which they had installed when they brought down the 1953 democratic but socialist / communist, Cold War logic, socialist equal communist regime of Mohammad Mossadegh, who was the prime minister of Iran and who intended to nationalize the oil. Nationalize literally means the profits from the oil will come to the people of this nation instead of, as it was before, going to mainly America and Great Britain. And as such, the CIA and MI6 brought down his government and put the Shah in power. The Shah, absolutely more liberal, more pro-Western than the West, but still a dictatorship with Shah, aka King or Emperor, if you wish, with a secret police, if I recall the name, Savak. I think it's Savak, the name of the Shah, the Shah secret police. And the discontentment in the Cold War logic was for Western nations to support the Islamists against the communists. But supporting the Islamists is what eventually brought to power the Ayatollah. And the Ayatollah, Khomeini, being as they are, for those who think I'm exaggerating, the Ayatollah Khomeini was in exile in France for, I think, 10 years before returning to Iran in 1979. So he was not hiding somewhere in some Arab or Muslim country. No, he was in exile in France, where he was seen as a holy man, visited by Western politicians and seen as so, you know what I mean? And then he was airlifted from France to Iran. So the way I'm looking at the situation is, and many analysts said it, Donald Trump is trapped. Very likely he has been bamboozled by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, aka Bibi, as it was revealed, notably by Tony Blair, but as well by Anthony Blinken, that for the last 40 years that Benjamin Netanyahu has been seeking war against Iran. He's been trying to get every American president, notably Obama and Biden, to come to war with Israel against Iran with a simple declaration. We're going to start, are you with us? Obama and Biden saying no. And in the first Trump administration, he was saying no. And we know it's always been said. He had the guardrails. He had more mature people in his administration who could control his proclivities to king-like thinking. He doesn't have that in his second administration. We can very well see what happened, and I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit off topic, but Robert Mueller passing away, and Michael Steele, now on MSNBC, but the former chairman of the Republican National Congress, the former chairman, calling him disgusting as Trump mocked the death of Mueller. Trump apparently went into war with Netanyahu under the logic of being the great liberator of the people of Iran, aka weeks back in December, freedom is coming. He did nothing. The regime, it is said in the West, killed 30 to 40,000 people in 2 days or a few days. And now we're having this conflict that is having this impact at home in socioeconomics. We're talking about the price of gas. I'm here in Ottawa. Gas on Innes and Blair reaching $1.75. $1.75. This is higher than when Trudeau had the carbon emissions tax on gas. And the conversation is that the price of the barrel of oil will reach 200, aka the Americans and Israeli are delivering a military war on Iran, and Iran is responding with an economic war. The price of fertilizer, the famous price of eggs, everything is bound to increase. And further to that, greater destabilization, as notably Trump asking for help of NATO members who all turned him down, as for months J.D. Vance had been mocking and insulting European nations. And so they're like, no, at the very most, we will help our allies in the Middle East, but we are not coming into this war against America, notably as rightfully, very rightfully, and we should take this seriously, Iran has a possibility of terrorist attack in Western nations, and it has done so before. Iran has notably killed French citizens. Iran has been a sponsor of international terrorism. And when I say Iran, people have to be really careful in understanding this is not about the Iranian people. This is about the Iranian regime, in the same way as not every American is a representative of Donald Trump thinking and policies. And if you're really honest, most MAGA people literally don't follow politics, and as such, just as is proven regarding Republicans, will vote against their own interest. As a Latino man I saw in the gym wearing a hat saying "Make America Great Again," yet he be in Milwaukee or any city in the US, he will be picked up by ICE and deported to Mexico, if he's even from Mexico.
All right, just want to catch up on some comments here. We got some here. Leroy McKenzie, haven't seen you in a long time, says Dr. Vibe. And then someone saying 47's a liar, 47's a joke. Says also he's ruining the United States. Someone saying here 47 is Israel's puppet. And also saying he's ignorant. What else are you wanting to say about the situation? I know you don't got a lot of time left, this Cesar. What other final some comments you got on regards to this situation?
I think so. We will talk about it in 2 weeks. We talked. We already agreed in 2 weeks. We will talk about the religious aspect of this conflict. With Christian fascism, but many people are seeing this conflict as potentially leading to World War III. I absolutely understand the worries and concerns people would have, as from a regional conflict. There was a map, a French news channel did a map of the entire area of target of the strongest Iranian missiles, if I'm not mistaken, ballistic missiles that could reach Europe and half of Africa. But if Russia and China don't get in on the side of Iran, and that's very unlikely to happen, just as they didn't regarding Venezuela, just as they didn't regarding Syria, it's not going to lead to such, notably as, how can I put it? Donald Trump is, I heard this great expression. So, you know how we often hear about, in terms of politics, it's not checkers, it's chess. Me, what I say is Chinese, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, plays Mahjong. Mahjong is in time, space, it's an everything. It's a deeper level than checkers. A French political analyst said, Donald Trump does not play any of those, and he likely doesn't even understand them. Donald Trump is a poker player. It's basically the false art of the deal, in which everything, and it's been known about Trump, is a matter of position of power and position of what's in it for him. Absolutely no caring on democracy, constitution, international law. And can you imagine the people in Norway, the Nobel Committee, how they must be like, good thing we didn't give this guy the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you imagine the mockery it would have been on us? The way I'm looking at it, this situation is going to get worse, but not necessarily the way we think. So I'll give you an example. As an international investor, one of the things that's happening is that the pinch people are feeling could be great regarding renewable energies, aka nations understanding that a dependency on oil, notably through the Detroit or Hormuz, but also the Red Sea, the Strait of Hormuz, and also the Red Sea, is not sustainable. Right now, one of the things that's happening is that, first of all, how many of our Black people actually know who the richest Black man is in the world? Aliko Dangote of Nigeria. He has an oil refinery in Nigeria that has been booming in demand from nearby African countries all the way to South Africa, as the dependency cannot be sustained. And we remember just a few years ago, I think 2022, African countries got pinched by the Ukraine war and the demand on grains. Why is Africa needing grains from Ukraine? Why is Africa needing oil from the Middle East? Latin America will grow, is bound, if you ask me, to become to have greater solidarity in order to have less dependency, and also, even for those who are so-called Trump allies like President Milei in Argentina, to be less dependent on America, notably for security. Because at home, what we're seeing, the greater destabilization, the destabilization that was already occurring since Trump has been in power, aka attacking DEI, aka ICE, aka women's rights, culture war, LGBT, all of this become worsened by socioeconomics and the perspective not only of war, but even of terrorism right here at home. So when we look at even for Black communities, I gave you the example of Black nations as in Africa, but also the Caribbean, less dependency. But even here, Black communities, these type of situations tend to bring people closer to the core values of either what they are and or what they should be. Because the realization that the world is more dangerous. When the world is more dangerous, when people come to realize this, they become less naive. They tend to become less naive to thinking the political speech is all beautiful, there's no worry. No, we need to. This is why, when we talk about Black socioeconomics, Black politics, Black spirituality, FUBU, for us, by us. Less dependency, Black Wall Street, you name it. But this is basically where I see this happening, as this pinch, general pinch, tends to drive more extremist thinking, extremist behavior, getting closer to chaos. Trump, as I said, Obama and Biden, stepping on the brake pedal of the fall of the American empire. Trump, full on the gas pedal of the fall of the American empire.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there because Cesar has a hard stop in a few moments, but just some quick comments here. Gentleman Sean Walker says, first time here, Cleveland, Ohio. Good to have you. He says,
Welcome.
he's saying that China and Russia are already in.
Yes, they are. No. Please, let's be honest. They are. It is mentioned how, notably, Russia has been giving logistical information to Iran regarding American position. Yes, but let's be honest here. What's helping Ukraine with weapons and information, notably killing Russian soldiers? America, the European nations.
Okay. And also another comment here says, realpolitik versus idealism.
Very well said. Very well said.
All right. So before we leave, we're just going to we'll end it off there because Cesar has to go. But in 2 weeks, we're really excited to have him back. Also, we'll just want to show the results of the poll. And people seem to say fixing the economy at home is more important than strength abroad and military power. So
the worst part is that is not even strength abroad. Empires kill themselves, destroy themselves from within, notably, as I showed with this book, Are We Rome? Expensive, unnecessary military campaigns that drain resources and increase not only distrust towards politics, but also increase violence from within.
And one last comment, someone says, you guys are great, keep going. Well, we can't keep going now because Cesar has to leave, but he will be back in 2 weeks. Just to wrap it up here, as always, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, email is president@rootsandculturecanada.com. Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. That's where you can catch him. One or two other things I'm just going to do here. So again, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business product or service on any of the platforms I'm on, email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, if you want to find out more about me, you can also go to taplink.cc/the drvibeshow.com. And finally, you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website, the drvibeshow.com. And I think we have one more here. All right. And then how we finish off, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making history, if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both and make it better. And also a shout out to Eves Joseph. Said a favorite on Facebook. So Cesar,
a good friend of mine, Yves Joseph, my salutation. Good friend, supporter, and a good black man, a role model. I've told him in person. Now the whole world knows. A good role model, brother Yves.
Excellent. Make sure you have a really safe trip, Cesar. Looking forward to seeing you back in 2 weeks. Be well and keep the faith.
Thank you.